Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a double page layout with a beautiful autumn toile paper. This paper, you get 3 sheets of each design, and they are double-sided. So we have this beautiful brown tones here with a brown checker pattern on the back. And we have, looks like maybe a duck hunting type paper, and we have a leafy vine on the back. Then we have this beautiful pumpkin patch paper, one of my favorites in the pack. And on the back we have a beautiful gray soft tones here, and then we have the little fox. On the back of that we have a brown stripe. Like I say, you get 3 sheets of each of those, and today I'm going to be using this one right here, I believe. And as promised last week in my video, those of you who watched know that I am expecting another grandbaby. My daughter and her husband are having a baby, and I have pictures from the gender reveal, and it's a girl. Bethany was definitely excited. She said she would have been happy with either, but she is very glad that she got a little girl. There's her first expression, or her first expression when she first saw the smoke. But she is beyond excited, and so are we. So I have several pictures of family members here. So we're going to get these all down. I am going to be using a sketch. Our upline Cindy Jackson put out this sketch for November. It's our November sketch, and I'm barely squeaking it in. Today is the last day of November, but I'm going to get it done. So I'm going to follow this sketch for my photo placement and my paper layers, but I am going to follow a color pattern that Erin Jacobson did in one of her videos, where she used this paper. And then she also brought in a paper pumpkin, the Autumn Toile paper pumpkin, which has lots of things and pieces in here that will coordinate. So I think we'll pull out some of these pieces. Now these are for making cards. I've already punched out all the little pieces. And Paper Pumpkin is a monthly subscription. So you get a kit each month that has all the pieces in it. A lot of them come with a Stampin' Spot and a stamp set. I'm not going to say every single one does, because I'm not sure on that. But this one did come with a Cajun Cray Stampin' Spot and a little set of stamps. And then you get your card bases. Here's your envelopes to make different cards. Here's all the card bases for this one. There's a nice linen, and then a nice checker pattern that matches pretty close to the paper. There is some DSP in this set. Then you get all of these cutouts, and they make all the different cards. There's pumpkins, there's some of the little fox. I've already used a few of these. These are leaves cut from a metallic paper that they have. It's called Earthen Tones, I believe. Earthen Tones metallic paper. I will look that up and list it below if you're interested in something like that. It has these little pumpkin punch outs, and I actually have already stamped a couple. I stamped these and colored them, so I was just kind of playing around with it. It has some little sentiment spots. They're all punch out. Some more card fronts. This one has some Stampin' dimensionals and glue dots. And then you always have a set of instructions, and it tells you exactly how to put together each card. If you wanted to put together all the cards as is, it has everything in this box to do that. But today I'm going to be using this paper and these card bases, I do believe. Now the sketch calls for a border. I already have my paper fixed up. I have done a border with early espresso, and then my base page is going to be this vanilla color. I just love this. I love this vanilla color instead of white with these. It's just gives it even more of a fall tone. All right, so in the sketch, it looks like we're going to have some strips at the bottom and in the middle, and there's a tiny strip going across the middle here. Probably to break up those, if you use 2 pattern papers, you'll probably use a little strip to break up those papers. But for my paper, like I say, I want to use this pumpkin one right here. And then I believe I'm going to use this as my next layer. And I'll probably cut these in half, because we're only going to use a couple inches sticking out the top like this. It shows a strip going all the way across. So we'll cut that and we'll make that run all the way across the paper right there. And I think to break this up, I'm going to see, I may have to look for something else. I'm not sure if the early espresso will work very good since the background is early espresso. But we're going to say we might use that. I might look into my stash and see if there's something else that would work. But we want something a little darker to break up these 2 patterns as they go across. And then for our placement, I have a lot of photos here, so we're going to use some flip flaps. I'm going to use a flip flap here where it actually reveals the gender. That way, put this one up this way. So that way, when I flip it up, and there's our gender right there. So I'm going to set these aside. We'll use a 4x6 flip flap there. We'll set these aside till we're ready. And then for all the family pictures, I actually have 9 of them. So I think we're going to do, the pattern or the sketch calls for a 4x4 in 3 different spots. So I think we're going to put 3 on each one, and I'm going to put a flip flap on each of the 4x4s. And then there's one picture that sets here. I will probably use placeholders. All of these family members, I don't know if they want to be shown on social media. This is my family and my son, so I don't mind for them to, to show that one. But for the other families, I'm going to not show them on social media just in case they don't want to be shown. But we got all of our family and all of Chandler's family in little pictures with Bethany and Chandler. We'll get all those placed on in just a moment. Let me go and cut these papers down and get our background papers going, and then we'll move on. All right, I got my paper layers cut and adhered down, and I got my photos. They're not anything adhered down on the photos. I did want to show you when you're using your card bases. Behind where I'm putting my photos, I cut those out. So I was able to get this whole strip out of just one card base. That way I still have some card bases to make some of the cards with. So you can always strategically place your papers where it looks like it's one continuous row. But as you can see, I just have little pieces filling in so that it didn't use up so much paper. So I am going to start the embellishments. I'm going to pull out some of these leaves from the paper pumpkin kit. Let's see. We're going to start one right over here. We're going to have our title up here. Let me go ahead and bring that in just so that we have it in place. I made a title on my Cricut that says Our Little Pumpkin. And then the sketch calls for a subtitle right down here, which I will end up probably dovetailing these. But I have Our Little Pumpkin is a Girl. So we'll put the little subtitle down here, and we'll ink those up and fix those up here in a minute. But just so that we make sure of our placement of our leaves and stuff, I wanted to go ahead and bring that in. All right, we're also going to make us a cluster right in here. I'm not sure if I want to use that, or I could cut one of these little trees out of this little card kit. And I think I would really like that right there. So let me glue this, stick this down, and we're going to cut some of the edges off. I'm just going to tack it down right in the center there until I make sure here. So I think we'll put it right back like this. And then I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to snip it here, here, and I'll trim it up and make it all nice and even here in a minute. Let's see. I think I'm also going to go ahead and trim this off because it looks, I don't like it sticking out the top of the, snip it off there because the rest of it will go behind the picture. I'm going to stick that back in right in there. All right. Like I say, I'll trim this off nice and straight. All right, we can always put something up there to hide that. So I like that. Let's go ahead and pull some of the little pumpkins in. There's some of the pumpkins. And let's see what else we have. We'll figure out something up there in just a few minutes. Okay, so we've got us some pumpkins. I think since those pumpkins are so small, I'm going to use the stamp set, and we're going to stamp some of these smaller leaves to kind of go around in around the pumpkins. I think those would look better, and I'll stamp a few to go around in with this one as well. All right, I stamped several of those little leaves in some different colors. I've got Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, Old Olive, Crushed Curry, and Cherry Cobbler. So let's put a few around in this little, around these little pumpkins, just to give them a little, let me lay those down. All right, maybe one more right here. All right, and for that little spot right here, I found this little circle. This was also from the card kit. Then I have this stamp set called Love This Moment. And I think we're going to try to stamp, this one right here says, I love this. So let's see if we can stamp this on that little circle. That'll make a, that will make a perfect little topper to go right up here and give us a, all right, we're going to stamp that in Early Espresso. So I have that loaded up on my block. Grab a mat. Put that right on top of there. me stamp that on some scratch paper before I do it once, just to make sure we got this good. All right. Get in there. It barely fits, but I think that will be perfect. Wipe that off. And we will just put that right there. Perfect. All right. Let's get our ink put away. Now then, I think over here, I'm going to go ahead and put one more batch of these leaves in there just to bulk that up a little bit. I don't want to get too much on top because I am going to put my flip flap on top. So I think we're going to go with just the leaves. We'll add a few of these shiny leaves from the Earthen texture metallic papers. And I think we're just going to keep that one kind of simple. Let's see. Let's see if one more right there in the front. I'll just bring that color in all the way. Maybe bring these together more. There we go. Got a good array of color there. All right. I think underneath our title, I'm going to do a little ink blending. This is pumpkin pie. I'm just going to make a little patch of ink there for our title to sit on because it just looks kind of flat there. So let me find my scratch paper back because we don't want any harsh lines. I just want to go in little circular motions and just put just a little bit of color right underneath there. Let's see here. Maybe go out just a little bit more. Bring it down just a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. All right, I think that looks perfect. So that gives just a little bit of color for our title to stand off there. And let's go ahead and add a couple of these little leaves around up here. Make a little collection right here. Maybe a couple right over here. Right. That looks good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink around this with some early espresso and then put some dovetails in. We'll just ink this up. I already had some ink on it from the last time I used it, so I'm just going to use what's on there. It doesn't have to be real dark. We just want it to stand off the page just a little bit. So let me go ahead and put that dovetail, and then we'll ink inside that dovetail. And just make it kind of shallow here. You just cut up the center, then from each corner to the inside there. And then we'll just curve that a little bit, get those insides. I don't even need to curl it there. All right. And we're going to attach that right there. That will be our little subtitle. I think I'm going to move these out over here. Those were on this corner. I wanted it to go ahead and come on out to the other corner. There. I think that looks better than having it just halfway over on the top there. All right. So let me go ahead and get some of these clusters glued down and get my photos glued down here. And we'll be right back. All right. I have everything adhered down. And just for the last touches, I did go ahead and pop this little sign up on some foam tape. So I'm going to get that adhered down. And I'm going to put it just under the edge kind of, because I do have a flip flap to go on top of that. So we will work that in and make sure that all fits down good. And then I got my 4x6s in their flip flap. So we'll just end up folding this down. I'll match this up right on top of that photo right there. That way we can still see the border good. So that when we flip it up, we have our reveal. And it tells that it's a girl. I will be putting this on the outside of the page protector when I get it in page protectors. Some people like to adhere theirs down to their page and cut a slit in their protector. But I like to put mine on the outside. That's just the easiest for me. So I will be doing that on this side. And then we'll get the rest of the family pictures. These were my family here. So I knew they wouldn't care to be shown. So I went ahead and put them on the bottom. And I'll put all the others in the flip flaps that will flip around. I also wanted to add some of these dots. This is the opaque faceted gems. I thought we would get some of these brown ones. They look like pecan pie. I'm not sure if it tells the color on here, but I think we're just going to use a few of these round ones. Brown ones, I'm sorry. So we'll get a few of those stuck on. Maybe around our title over here. Got some large ones and some small ones. Another large one right up here. All right, I believe that's good. I don't think I'll put any around on the bottom paper. I think it'll just blend in too much. So we're going to let that be good. So I appreciate you watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And until the next time, have a great day.